I'm Ellie, host of The Healthy Practice. In this episode, I'm delighted to speak to Katherine Smith. Katherine is a health copywriter and email marketing strategist. Before making the shift to copywriting, she spent 41 years of her career as a licensed physical therapist. Katherine provided contract physical therapy services to physical therapy practices and home health agencies as an entrepreneur. Email marketing is an effective, consistent way for you to connect with your clients, build a relationship with them, and of course, grow your practice. And today, Katherine and I will be discussing the do's and the don'ts of email marketing for healthcare professionals. From consistency, tone of language, and tracking conversions, there's so much to learn, and Katherine is going to help us. Welcome to The Healthy Practice, Katherine, all the way from Florida. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's really fun to be here. Like you said, before I got into copywriting, I was a physical therapist, and the very condensed version of that, because it was 41 years. I started in Canada in a large teaching hospital and then immigrated to Florida about a year in. And then worked for a large hospital association here where I did outpatient, inpatient rehab facility and became a physical therapy supervisor, and then had the opportunity to develop the fitness portion of the hospital's wellness program with a good friend of mine who's an exercise physiologist, and manage that until I went off to work for myself and provide services to physical therapy owned and physician owned outpatient clinics and home health agencies, and also became a certified wellness coach, and then developed and taught wellness programs to the general public within those clinics or within gyms in the area where I live. But I also had a kind of side hustle for a while, an online magazine, Health and Fitness for Women Over 50, and I wrote all the web copy and the blogs and the email newsletter for that, and loved doing that. So when it kind of came time when I was thinking about retiring and I knew I really didn't want to retire, I started taking copywriting courses a couple of years in to learn how to do that for other people, because I really wanted to stay connected to the health and wellness realm, because it's what I really believe in, and I wanted to provide those services for other people. And I retired fully in the beginning of last year. And launched my agency then. And then thought I would never do sales. I was only going to do patient education. And of course, one of my first clients asked me to do emails. And I really found it's like the closest thing to having a conversation with a patient or client that you can get to online. And I absolutely loved it. And so I pivoted into doing really only that and launch copy at that point, because that was really what I enjoyed doing the most. So that's better.
Yeah, that's amazing. You've got such a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I know our listeners are going to find it really beneficial hearing from you. So let's take it back to basics first of all. What exactly is email marketing, and why is it important for those of us in private practice?
You know, I think a lot of people see that word email marketing and they think about the marketing part. And so they think of it as a way to generate revenue for their business, which it absolutely is. It's like one of the best ROIs you can have. But what it really is, and the only way I think it really works, especially for health practices, is it's a relationship building tool. Mm-hmm. And when you come at it from that perspective, that's actually what gets you the best ROI. It is first and foremost a relationship building tool. It's not a one-to-many marketing venue. It's a one-to-one, because when the person on the other end opens it, they're having a one-to-one relationship with the person that sent the email. So it's really actually on the receiver side, one-to-one, and it's all about building relationships.
Mm-hmm. And I guess thinking about it as a relationship instead of like a sales pitch or a selling thing can make it a little bit more palatable for us, because we're not salespeople. We're not really used to that kind of thing. So it does make it easier to get your head around it.
It does. And it really helps take some of the pressure off. For what I run into sometimes with clients is they've taken some courses when they're DIYing it, the solopreneurs, and they've taken courses that aren't designed for health professionals. And they are more salesy, more pushy, more, 50% discount now kind of thing. And it doesn't feel good to them, and it's not really working for them.
Yeah, and launching a business or practice does mean wearing all of these hats at once, or trying to wear all of these hats at once when we haven't really been trained for it. And that, as you say, it can result in a lot of like DIY marketing and going on these courses. So where should healthcare professionals be putting their marketing efforts to begin with, and then onwards as well?
The very first place they should really start with their marketing efforts is in target market research.
Mhm.
And by that, I mean, actually, if you have clients already, actually sit down and talk with them. Like, what are the topics and things they're interested in? How do they like getting information? What format do they want it in? What are some small wins they've had with you? Really listen to the words they use and keep track of them. If you can record it, great. If not, write them down, because that's like marketing gold for the words you want to use in your copy. And then once you've done that, there's really like two branches. You've got to get the word out about who you are and what you're doing now. So that's kind of one branch. And then you've got to have a way to connect to people once they've expressed an interest, so that you don't lose them, because the vast majority of people are not going to hear about you once and say, yeah, here's my insurance, or here's my money I'm in. They want to get to know you, especially in health and wellness. If you're just starting out and it's only you, whether you're online or in person, tap out to your people you already know, especially if you've been in your field for a while. Let them know, let them spread the word. When you get online, I would, as a solopreneur, pick one platform, get really used to it, get really comfortable with it before you branch out and overload yourself. And then once you've started getting the word out, that's when you want to, and you're getting a few bites, that's actually when you want to start your email list. A lot of people regret not starting it sooner, because if you at least have something started somewhere for them to go, when people have expressed an interest, you can keep in touch with them. If you don't, you're constantly needing to do more work to bring people in, because the online world's really busy, really packed. In social media, I think 2% of your audience sees your post, and they're seeing a million other posts at once. So you need to stay in touch with them, or they will forget about you. As big
I
as
guess.
you are, they will.
Yeah. It's like keeping it consistent, isn't it? So they don't forget that you're there, not just posting once and thinking, that's it, that'll do.
Yeah.
Keeping it consistent. And could I do it myself, or should I hire a copywriter? Would that be the best way to go?
So I don't know that my copywriting friends will agree with it. I actually think you can do it yourself, especially when you're starting out. I think there's some benefits to doing it yourself. There's some benefits to hiring someone too, but you just need to know, if I'm going to do it myself, I will have to invest some time. I do need to learn a little bit about email marketing and email metrics. I do need to learn a little bit about copywriting. It might take a little bit longer, but if I do that for a bit and then I decide I want to hire someone, I actually have a little more knowledge of what I'm looking for. I kind of know what my voice is. I've learned a little bit about my audience, and I can vet the person I'm hiring a little bit better, so that I know they're a good fit for me. So that's, I think, the benefit. And obviously, if your budget doesn't allow it and you've got the time and you're just starting out, do it that way.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, I think when you're just starting out, you kind of just want to save as much as you can. And I think that's really beneficial. Like, learning a little bit about it really does help. That's a really good advice. It really does help when you then go on to look into hiring a copywriter. At least you know about copywriting, so you can kind of sift through and see who might fit best with you and your practice, I guess.
Yeah, and you're a little clearer on what your goals and things are for it, which you really want to know before you hire someone. So yeah.
Yeah. Do private practitioners need a strategy, and how can they make sure that that strategy is ethical?
They absolutely need a strategy. If I would say one thing, it's like, do your strategy first, because if not, it's kind of like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle in the dark. It's not going to wind up looking anything like what you planned, and it's probably not going to be pretty if you don't have a strategy. So you do. How to make it ethical. If you're a licensed health professional, like I know for me with my physical therapy license, there's a written code of ethics here in the state of Florida for us. So I want to look at that and make sure anything and everything I'm doing aligns with that. If you are someone who doesn't live in Europe, but your clients are in Europe, you want to make sure your email service provider is adheres to the GDPR, because that's a set of rules for how you can transport and store people's information across the Atlantic. And it's really easy to find that when you're looking at ASPs, they'll tell you. For testimonials for any business, you want to ask permission. I say for health and wellness professionals, get that permission in writing. If you're doing a case study or a testimonial, get the permission in writing, but also write it up, show it to them ahead of time, make sure they're okay with it, and let them know anywhere and everywhere that you might use that now and in the future, and get their okay to do that. Here in the US, we have something called HIPAA, which is privacy laws. So you also want to be aware of that. And that's where getting things in writing, because there's some pretty severe consequences for breaking those laws. You want to do that. Beyond that, if you're writing it yourself or you're hiring somebody, read your emails over before you send them. If they feel icky to you, don't send them. Look at them again, read them again. Think about them from the perspective of the person who's opening them. If you can't figure out what that's like, ask somebody else to do it. And it should feel good to you and to the person receiving it. If it doesn't, it's better like not to send it and get it feeling good first. But those are kind of the main guidelines. Usually businesses have lawyers. I'd always just run any questions you have by your lawyer.
Yeah, it's better to be safe.
Yeah.
What kind of types of content do you find most engaging and relevant for patients? So would the focus be more on educational content, testimonials, promotional offers even? Like what kind of thing do you think is the most beneficial?
There's a place for all of it. The mistake I see clinicians making is it's way too heavy on educational. And that gets back to email marketing being a relationship building tool. If I meet you in person, we don't build a relationship by my bombarding you with information. We don't build a relationship by my selling to you every single time we meet. We build a relationship by getting to know each other. And if I am like coming up from a business perspective, I'm also letting you know what I do and helping you decide if what I do is a good fit for you or not. And the or not piece is really important too. We're not trying to force everybody and anybody to work with us. We're trying to get people that we are a good fit for to work with us. So that's more of the type of content. Thinking about the mindset shifts somebody might have to decide to take a step and do with you or anyone the type of work that you do, to decide to invest in that. Help them really have those mindset shifts. If, are they ready for it? Aren't they? Those are the type of things your content should be. Case studies and testimonials that help them feel heard and help them really decide, actually, yeah, this is exactly what I need. This way this person works feels really good to me. That's the type of things you're putting most of your focus on. You can educate a little bit as well, but not really heavily. You can do that part once they're working with you. And you can sell maybe 20% of the time an actual really out there sell of here's the thing.
Yeah. And some client groups are particularly vulnerable as well. So what sort of copy can we push out to them? Are we always selling our services, or can we send them useful resources, thoughtful blog posts, stuff like that, instead of just selling to maybe vulnerable people?
Yeah, you're not doing as much of a hard sell to them. If somebody's really vulnerable, give them the time they need, the resources they need, help them have everyone, but even more so with them, help them have little mini wins with things you suggest that give them the actual experience of what working with you would feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So some really tiny, small step they could take and feel a result and know this feels good to me. This is what I want more of. Do more of that. Don't push as hard. Always give people options about what they want to do. When you start segmenting where they want to be in that process, they can click out if they choose to. Give them ways to interact with you. And the other thing with that group is in copywriting, sometimes there's lots of different copywriting formulas. One of them is to really kind of dig into the pain points people are having, kind of bring them to light and bring them up, and then take them on a path that says there's a way out. It's not the only copywriting formula, so you really need to step back and say, with this population, like with somebody with mental health, is that an appropriate formula to use? Can I use it and downplay it a bit and really, really more highlight the hope? Or am I just going to choose another formula altogether that more highlights the transition and really doesn't focus as much on that? So those are the things you kind of think about with a more vulnerable population.
Mm-hmm. What tone of voice should we be using in our emails that we're sending out?
Your tone of voice. And this is a thing that clinicians don't realize they're really good at. Like when you're working in person with people, did humor work for you in your setting? Your natural time of humor. If it did, put it in your emails. If it didn't, you're more of a really empathetic but shoot straight from the hip person. Yeah. And your clients that you love working with, that's what they really responded. That's the tone of your emails. And that's where listening to some marketing advice that's telling you kind of how to go about it and it doesn't feel right, that's where you really, what works for you. It works really well. What you're trying to do is put more of you into your emails so they know who you are. So it's really your conversational tone of voice.
And it sounds less like a robot and more like a person.
And it sounds nobody else can do it.
Exactly. Yeah, nobody else can be you. So it's really nice. Yeah. And I think a lot of people really try to be, they'll see somebody else doing it well and think, okay, well, that's working. So I'm just going to copy or that, emulate that. And that's where it can kind of go wrong. So I think that's really good advice. Really good advice. Not all patients are the same, as we know, and neither are healthcare needs. So how can we effectively segment our email list to provide tailored content and offers for all these different people and groups?
So segmenting is really a good thing to do. It's one of the best ways to help people, but it's also one of the best ways to get better ROI. There's lots of different ways to do it. For sure, if you are keeping in touch via email with not only your clients, but referral sources, those are two different segments. And what you want to be sending them are different. There can be a little bit of overlap, but it's different. If you are dealing with a lot of different health conditions and the way that you work with each one is really different, and the programs or services you offer to one is really different, then you would segment according to those health conditions so that people aren't getting information they don't relate to, don't want, or don't need. If you have a program or service that's just for women or just for men or just for transgender people, and doing it that way makes the people in that service or program feel more comfortable, then you would segment according to that. Like some physical therapists do pelvic health for women. Program, and the women don't want men in that particular program if that's the way it's designed. So you would segment for that. If somebody has already worked with you, already purchased a program, sometimes you segment for that because they don't really want to hear over and over again about a program they've already bought and they don't need to buy again. But also they're a really good resource for you've gotten this far in your journey. What would you like to see from me next? What type of service do you think I could provide you that you would need? What program would you like me to develop that would take you a little bit further? And that group can really answer that. And other than that, I would say the one way I would always recommend segmenting is a welcome sequence before your newsletter that's designed just for new people. So you can
Nice.
welcome them in, set expectations by telling them how it's all going to work, who you are, giving them things they need when they're just getting to know you. You can always provide an opt-out link at the top if you're segmenting. So some people say, I don't want it, I just want the email, the newsletter. So they can click it and it'll remove the tag. They'll wind up in your newsletter and they'll skip the welcome sequence if they don't want it. Most people don't click that link. They actually really like the welcome sequence.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I've never thought about that. So that's really cool. Yeah, thank you, Katherine. That's really interesting. Talking of that, sort of signing up and opting in, how can we encourage more of our patients to opt into our email list? So on the flip side, how should we handle opt-outs to ensure a positive patient experience?
So as far as opting in, the number one thing I'll tell people that most people aren't doing is, are you actually telling people you have an email list pretty consistently and regularly? Because if you're not, even if you pin it to like the featured section or something in LinkedIn, people don't know. They can't sign up. You need to tell them you have it and what to sign up for. Wherever they would meet you, like where are people first coming into contact with me? If I'm speaking in person, am I mentioning it? If it's online, what am I doing to draw people in? Am I mentioning it? If the other thing is, when I'm talking about it, am I talking about it from a perspective of this is the benefit you can get from joining my list? This is the things you'll find there that you won't find from me anywhere else. If you want to go deeper on this thing, if you have a freebie or a lead magnet, as they're called, that's tailored to a specific group, then you're promoting that on a regular basis. And the people that want that then join your email list. But, talk about it, let people know, and how you talk about it is the way to do it. Opt out, honestly, you are going to get opt-outs. It's not bad necessarily. You should be getting them. You're helping people self-select in or out. So people that aren't your ideal client, you actually want them to opt out so they can go get what they need. If you see a real marked opt-out, then obviously that wasn't happening before. You want to look at, what am I doing differently?
Yeah, what have I sent out that's made that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can send an automated email. First of all, make sure they meant to opt out, because there's lots of things to click and you can click the wrong thing and opt out. But you can also send an automated email. Never make them feel bad about opting out. Let them know it's perfectly okay. And then just generally ask for some feedback from them. And whoever wants to give you feedback on that will. But a really friendly, warm, was great to have you, sorry to see you go, but it's okay kind of thing.
Yeah, feedback's really, really important, isn't it? Because then you can really tailor the marketing going forward if you need to, if the feedback's relevant.
Exactly. Yeah.
How can we use software or automation to make our processes simpler? Do you use anything, or do you advise people to use any software at all?
There's most ESPs, most of them will allow you to automate your email sequences, and you really do want that. There's literally hundreds of ESPs out there. But you do want to be able to automate. It does a ton of your listing for you. Most of them allow you to segment. So you want one that will allow you to segment when you're ready to do that. Because if you get them set up where they're segmented and they're automated, you can automate getting testimonials and feedback from people in your program. You can write a sequence. It's one and done.
Oh, so
and at
good.
a certain point, it goes off and asks, how you doing? Just checking in. You can get feedback that way. You're not having to manually do that. If somebody follows your links and gets to your landing page to either book a discovery call, a webinar, a masterclass, your program, whatever, and they don't click and they move out, there's a browse abandonment automated sequence that you can send out to let them know if you have any questions, I'm here. Or if they click and then don't buy, there's a cart abandonment sequence. Again, you write it and it's done. That goes out automatically.
Yeah.
But ask, did you forget? People sometimes, the power goes out.
Yeah, exactly. Like it might do when I'm sitting here in storm.
And they totally forget to go back.
Yeah.
They mean to go back and they don't. So there's a way to automate all of that stuff. Your welcome sequence is automated. You write it and it's done. It's not a thing you write every week. And it welcomes new people in as soon as they click the link to subscribe and makes them feel welcome and lets them start connecting with you. The only one that you really don't automate is your newsletter, that you write consistently and it's more kind of up to date. But you can also repurpose stuff and make that easier. So yeah, there's lots of ways. You really rely on your ESP for that. And if and when you're ready, a VA that's technically does all that stuff for you can make it even easier.
Oh yeah, you don't even need to look at it then. It's so nice.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's just done for you. For those unfamiliar with the term, could you explain what tracking conversions means in the context of email marketing and how therapists can measure the success of their campaigns?
Sure. So tracking conversions, a lot of times people are thinking of tracking sales. When you are automating things, your ESPN it'll give you the open rates, the percentage of your population, the readers you sent your email to that actually opened them. It will tell you the percentage of people that clicked on whatever link you have in that email. So you know if people are responding to your calls to action. And it will tell you if they go through to wherever that link sent them, say it sent them to a webinar, did they or didn't they sign up for the webinar? Did they or did they buy your program? So you can use all that information to see what is working, where am I losing people, where in this whole email marketing journey, what do I need to fix, and when do I need to fix it? It's good to know the industry standards, but yours may vary really differently. And what you're looking for is where am I starting from and are things improving? So that you have realistic expectations, because email marketing is a long game. Yeah. It's not the way to get clients tomorrow. Those are either ads or other methods to bring people in, referrals, that kind of thing. Email marketing is more of the long game. And it works really well once it's set up and running.
Kind of like SEO. Yeah, kind of like SEO in that way.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So a little quiz, well, not really a quiz, but a little challenge for you. What are the 3 things that we should avoid when constructing an email campaign?
Well, the number one thing, and I almost feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but I know there are companies out there pushing it. So never, ever buy an email list. Good one. You are trying to communicate to people who have given you permission to do so. There are companies that sell email lists. There's laws that prevent it. It still happens. I still talk to people thinking of buying an email list as a hack. It never works. It's a great way to piss people off. And it's actually not, you're not supposed to be doing that to begin with. So never do that. Never, if you're a solopreneur and you do think I'm going to email on this frequency and something happens and you don't, and you kind of lose track, kind of get back into it, reconnect. You can honestly be transparent about what's happening whenever you're comfortable with that you didn't. But don't start your email journey with a frequency that you can't really maintain right now. Kind of ghost your list for a really, really long time and then hit them with sales. Because they don't know who you are. You haven't taken the time to warm them up. And, they're going to go from there. And don't send emails that don't feel good to you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's 3 ways to avoid the instant delete from your patient.
Yes. And really lousy return. Both of those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no point doing it. There's no point doing it, is there? Unless you do it right. So there's just no point. Before we summarize today's topic, I just wanted to let you know that the Healthy Practice podcast is brought to you by WriteUp, the software that streamlines your practice, saves time, and connects you with your patients. WriteUp helps over 13,000 clinicians and has facilitated over 4 million appointments. You can start your free trial today and check out all of the amazing features like video consultations, cashless payments, diary management, and having one place to store all of your patient records. Just go to writeup.com, that's WRITEUPP.com. I'd like to summarize what we've talked about just for our listeners really quickly, just 3 kind of things that I'd like to just summarize for them. The first one is Should you do it yourself or should you get a copywriter? What do you think?
I think when you're just starting out, I think it depends on your budget. If you don't have the budget, you should definitely do it yourself. It depends on how much hands-on you want to have. Some people do it themselves always. They love doing it. It's not a... So then I think you should do it yourself if you have lots of time and you want to learn before you hire someone. So those are all the pluses, I think, for doing it yourself. If money's not an issue, you have a load of clients, it's really stressing you out, and your time would be spent better elsewhere, then I think you should hire someone to do it.
It really depends on where you are and your own personal like state, like where you are in your career, doesn't it? Yeah. Also, a couple of tips. How do we create an empathetic email? If you really had to summarize it.
Be yourself. Really know your audience, use their language, and come at it as a relationship building tool. Give people ways to connect with you elsewhere. If you're on social media, put in a link and tell them to communicate with you that way. Ask people to reply to you with a really, really simple reply, something that's yes, no, so they get used to connecting with you. Make it a personal thing.
Yeah, and that really builds a relationship, doesn't it, as well, especially if they're replying to your emails.
Yeah.
And finally, how to track impact. How do we track that?
You track that by knowing your metrics, by having an idea of what the general metrics are, and then by not over stressing about that, but fixing one thing at a time and then seeing what improves. A/B split test things, like you can change just the subject line and send that to 10% of your list, and the other 90% get the other subject line.
Okay, yeah.
And you see which one performs better. And so you're learning and improving as you go. But you also need your strategy, and you do need to have goals for your email marketing, because otherwise what are you measuring all those things for?
Yeah, exactly. What are you tracking? Exactly.
Why are you tracking? Why are you spending the time, doing it? Yeah.
Exactly. Before I let you go, if you were in the audience right now, what would be the one challenge you set yourself this week to really kickstart an email marketing strategy?
I would do some market research. I like to do that at the very least once a year, ideally once a quarter, where if I've already got clients, I would try and schedule 5 conversations with current clients and ask information about what they want to hear about, how they want to hear about it, how often they'd like to be communicated with, and get their feedback, really keep track of their words so that I can use those words. What they were, gather your testimonials from people you've worked with, get your permission. I would do that kind of thing. If I don't have clients, I would look to social media for my competitors, the people who've actually already bought or worked with them. That's who you really want to hear from. And look at their comments and what they're saying about what they liked and disliked. Or I would go to a site on Reddit and look at what those people are saying. And because that's the first step before you even start building a strategy or start writing anything. If you miss that step, which a lot of people do, you can do everything right, and you're either talking to the wrong crowd or not talking to them in a way that resonates.
Yeah, so that's the number one place to start, market research.
Number one place to start.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I personally love your LinkedIn, but where else can our listeners follow more of your work?
So my primary platform is LinkedIn. They can follow me. It's currently being revamped at cjcopysmith.com. And they can reach out at Katherine at cjcopysmith.com.
Fantastic. And I really do encourage people to check out your LinkedIn, because you post so many videos and they're so helpful, and I've learned loads from them. So I'm sure everybody else.
Oh, great. I'm glad.
Well. Yeah, no, you're great. So we'll put all the links in our show notes as well. So thank you. Thank you, Katherine, for coming on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been a lot of fun.
And that's the end of today's episode. I just wanted to say a really big thank you to Katherine. She had some wonderful advice on how to get your email marketing really into shape. If anything struck a chord with you, please let us know by reaching out. Remember to check out writeup.com for all of your practice's software solutions and to start your free 30-day trial. No payment details are required. Thanks for listening to the Healthy Practice podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review. It really does help more than you might think. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.